Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Over to you, Prabhu. Whenever you want, you can start, okay?
Go ahead, Prabhu. Go ahead. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramham Saparvyaksha Shtuta Sadasya Srimad Swayangra Sisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय. ISKCON संस्थापकाचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. जय ओम विश्वनाथ परमहंस परमहंस स्तोत्र सदस्य श्रीमद स्वयं भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय. जय ओम विष्णुपाद श्री गौर किशोरदास भगत महाराज की जय. जय ओम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्ति विनोद ठाकुरा की जय. जय ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव मोहम्मद श्री जय जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय. जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ जी जीव गोपाल भट्टदास गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय. नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपिन श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय. श्री श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोरीश्वर भगवान की जय. श्री मायापुर धाम की जय. श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय. गंगा माई की जय. यमुना माई की जय. भक्ति देव की जय. तुलसी देवी की जय. अनंतपुरी वैष्णव की जय. श्री हरनाम संकीर्तन की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय. इस्कॉन गुरुवंत की जय. समाज भक्ति की जय. गौरव प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All goes to Shri Prabhupada की जय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. नष्टप्रायेषु अपत्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिः. हरे कृष्ण. Welcome you to the Saturday morning Srimad Bhagavatam summary study. We will today discuss from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 18, Text 17 to Text 32. I'll start with Text 17. Gandharvap Saraso Dukshan Patre Patmamahe Payah Vatsam Vishwavasum Kritva Gandharvam Madhu Shaubhagam. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka and Apsara Loka made Vishwavasu into a calf, and they drew the milk into a lotus flower pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. Namo Vishpada Krishna Prasthab Operation Tibetan Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Chakra Devi Sheshe Punyavadi Pashati Desi. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram. Hare Krishna. Just to connect ourselves to the previous slokas in this chapter, that was part 1, the concluding part of it. When Prithu Maharaj was instated as the king, at that time there was no food grain available. There was a scarcity. So the citizens all approached Prithu Maharaj, and Prithu Maharaj at that time got angry on Mother Earth. And then she pleaded, saying that the grains were there produced, but before Prithu Maharaj, actually King Vena was ruling the kingdom, and he actually was an atheistic person, and he stopped all the sacrifices. And she mentioned that when sacrifices are performed, then rains come, and from rains, grains can be produced. So because the sacrifices were not allowed to be performed, there was a scarcity of grains. Then she told Prithu Maharaj that I will give you a solution, and by which you will again get grains. There'll be rains, and then there'll be grains also. So we see that in the previous 2-3 slokas, she wanted that someone to be there as a milkman. So then Mother Earth takes the form of a cow. Then she wants a calf, because generally a cow gives milk only when there is a calf. And then there's a pot required for storing the milk. So that way it starts, and then in the first few slokas, we see Swayambhu Manu was transferred into a calf, and then he milked, the king milked all the grains from earth in the form of the cow. Then others also followed the same. turning Brihaspati into a calf. In text number 15, we see that Indra was made into a calf and they milked the beverage Soma. Now, in text number 16 onwards, we see 16, the sons of Diti transformed Prahlad Maharaj into a calf and they extracted various kinds of liquor and etc. So from today we'll cover the text number 17. In the translation it says, the inhabitants of Gandharva Loka and Apsara Loka made Vishwavasu into a calf and they drew the milk into a lotus pot, flower pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. So the point is that when Prithu Maharaj reinstated as a king, none of the, not only the grains, none of the artistic skills and so forth were available. So everyone, like we have in human beings also so many different classes of human beings. And within one, maybe a class also, there is a difference in taste and requirements and depending on the modes of nature that they associate with. So person to person, these tastes differ, requirements also differ. So here, each and everyone has got their own requirement. And they convert someone as a calf and they have something else as a milk pot, and then they churn what they require. So earth is also called Vasundhara, is the holder of wealth. And Mother Earth says that even if an unskilled person follows the process that she has given, he'll be successful in getting what he requires. So 3 things were required: a calf, a milking pot, and a milkman. Now, the reason is that the cows and calves are very dear to Krishna. And as per this sloka, Vishwa Vasu, he was also a dear servant of Krishna. So he's a representative of Krishna and he's a leader of the Gandharvas. The Gandharvas are generally known for their artistic music and dancing and so forth. So for them, this was more important than anything else. So these inhabitants of Gandharva Loka and Apsara Loka turned Vishwavasu into a calf. And the milk that was there, it took the beauty of musical art and beauty. So this is also a way of service that Mother Earth was rendering to Prithu Maharaj. Text number 18. There is no purport in many slokas that we'll be covering, so I'll be taking wherever it is available. Vatsena pitaror yamna kavyam kshiram adukshata amapatre mahabhagaha shraddaya shraddha devataha. Translation: the fortunate inhabitants of Pitruloka who preside over the funeral ceremonies made Aryama into a calf. With great faith, they milked kavya, food offered to the ancestors, into an unbaked earthen pot. So here some important points which we'll touch on. Now, Sri Prabhupada mentions about the Pitruloka. Generally, particularly in this material world, we see that most of the human beings, they have attachment to their family members. So Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, whoever remembers, whoever at the time of his death, that will be his next life. So those who are very much attached to the family members, they are sent to a place called Pitruloka, is also one of the planetary system. And the predominating deity of the planet is called Aryama. It said that he is somewhat of a demigod, and by satisfying him or offering oblations to the forefathers, one can please Aryama by offering him, and which then goes to the forefathers, or offer oblations to Lord Vishnu and give that Mahaprasad to the forefathers. By which what happens is that the living beings don't get a body of a ghost. Now, a ghost is someone, now we have subtle body and we have gross body. So we all have gross as well as subtle body. But those who are too much attached, it is said that they take the body of ghost. And this position of a ghost is very, very abominable because they don't have a gross body. their body is made up of intelligence, minds, and ego. That is only the subtle body. And they are, because they have too much of desire to enjoy material life, they are not given a gross body. And in the process, they don't have any senses. So it's like a very, when they want to enjoy, they create disturbances for others, for their mental satisfaction. So what happens is that when oblations are offered to Aryama or to Lord Vishnu and then given to these forefathers, then they get a gross body. Otherwise, generally it is said that they get a ghostly body. And so that is why people generally are advised to go to Gaya and offer Pinda or the oblations to the forefathers. Example is given that even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during his pastime, he went to Gaya and at a Vishnu temple, he offered the oblations for the benefit of his father. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not go there, but he just set an example that it's some formality that everyone has to go through. But the point is that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya for offering Pinda, it was also a pilgrimage visit for him, because in that visit, it is said that he met his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri. So those who are devotees of the Lord, it is said that they don't have to suffer this process because they are already devotees of the Lord. They may be getting a better birth in a better place, but they may not get a ghostly body. But those who are very highly attached to family members and attach a lot of fruitive results, they may, who think that they want to enjoy this material nature, they are sent to this Pitruloka so that they can fulfill their desires of enjoying. And this problem generally persists more in the Grihastha ashrama and still more in the other classes. Brahmanas, at least, they are supposed to have full knowledge of what a Grihastha is. But Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras generally don't have that knowledge, so they have a lot of attachment. They don't have an understanding that everyone and everything belongs to Krishna. And that's why the ignorance leads them to this situation. If someone is attached to the family life and if he leaves the body, it is said that a son can still observe his Shraddha ceremony and avoid his father from becoming a ghost. But then it has to be performed every year and so forth. But if one is a devotee, one need not worry much about it. They can offer some Mahaprasad to their forefathers. So one has to please this Aryama or Lord Vishnu to avoid a departed soul from suffering further. So here in this case, we see that they turned Vishwavasu into a calf. Sorry, this was 18th sloka. So they turned Aryama into a calf and then they milked what is called this kabya. This kabya is what we offer as oblations to the ancestors. And the pot was an unbaked earthen pot. Normally, earthen pots are baked in heat, but in this they used an unbaked pot as an earthen pot. And they derived what they wanted. Text number 19. Prakalpyavatsam kapilam siddha sankalpanahimayin siddhim navasi vidyam cha yeche vidyadharadayah. Translation Srila Prabhupada. After this, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka, as well as inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka, transformed the great sage Kapila into a calf and making the whole sky into a pot. They milked out specific yogic mystic powers, beginning with anima. Indeed, the inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka acquired the art of flying in the sky. So here in the paper, there are some important points, like the inhabitants both in the Siddhaloka and Vidyadhara Loka, they are supposed to be having this mystic power by which they can fly in the outer space without a vehicle. So that is their most important thing. So we see that every planet, they are living entities, and each one of them have their own qualities. For example, here we see that there are living entities living in earth, and there are living entities living in water. If you take a fish out of water and take it and keep it in the land, it will not live. And mankind cannot survive in water for a long time. Even if you know swimming, there is a time limit up which they have to come out. So these Vidyadharas residents, they can swim in the ocean of air. They don't need any equipment to fly. This is how they are perfected. And the inhabitants of Siddhaloka, they are all endowed with all mystic powers. And it is said that they have this perfection in mystic yogic these things. So they follow the yama, niyama, pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana and samadhi and so forth, by which they can get eight mystic perfections like anima, mahima, laghima, and so forth. I mean, they can become lighter than the lightest, heavier than the lightest, heaviest, and so forth. They achieve this. So these residents of Siddhaloka and Vidyadhara they all have these mystic powers. So their requirement is mostly to get skills such as the art of flying in the sky, etc. So here, Prithu Maharaj converted, transformed Kapila Dev. Kapila Dev, we have seen, is mentioned the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He was also an incarnation of the Lord. He was Lord himself. They transformed Kapila Dev into a calf and making the whole sky. They made the sky as a pot and they milked out specific yogic mystic powers, beginning with this anima. So they got these mystic powers. That means before Prithu Maharaj was reinstated, even these powers were not existing. So the inhabitants of the Siddhaloka, Vidyadharaloka, and they all milked out these powers by converting Lord Kapila as a calf. One more important point that is mentioned here is that Kapila Muni, he was the propounder of Sankhya philosophy, and he is the son of Karda Muni, and this Karda Muni was also a great yogi as well as a mystic. So Karda Muni, it is said that during his reign, he built a great airplane, and which was as good as the size of a town, and he had a lot of gardens and palatial buildings in that airplane. He had many servants and maid servants, and he took his wife Devahuti all over the universe to take her on this plane. And he traveled all over the universe and visited different planets in this airplane. This was the power of Kardamuni himself. And Kapila appeared as his son to Kapil Dev and Devahuti, Mother Devahuti. Text number 20. So the point is that there is one more point mentioned that these inhabitants, they have only desire to fly from one place to another. So it is said that every planet, there are living entities and each one has got their individual quality. For example, it is said that there are planets where banyan trees extend for many miles. We may not be able to see those here, but there are planets where banyan tree extend to miles. And even in Patalaloka, it is said that it is full of snakes and they enjoy communicating within themselves. And in that Patalaloka, wine and other facilities are available. Of course, these are all temporary pleasure ingredients. And the thing is that many times, many people want to go to heavenly planets for deriving different varieties of pleasure. They don't understand that these are temporary. And then but even in heavenly planets, there is a constant fear for the demigods of attack by demons who keep attacking the demigods. So these types of fear are also there in the heavenly planets. The point is that any pleasure that is there in the material world, in any of the planetary systems, it is always accompanied by pain. Now, we always look for pleasure because, as per Shastras, living entities mentioned that they are Anandamaya Vyasat because they are being the part and parcel of the Lord. They have a tendency, they have a desire to enjoy. So that is why we seek pleasure in temporary things without realizing what is a really permanent source of pleasure. So it is said that a karmic becomes frustrated very fast because for some time somebody might enjoy a pleasure in heavenly or any of the heavenly planets, but then they get frustrated with that. Similarly, a jnani also gets frustrated because he thinks that there is something more for him to know than what he knows. And then there's a tendency in him to speculate a lot. And they are proud that they have achieved this Brahman realization. But Brahman realization is also not the ideal situation for a human being. A lot can be realized in Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan, and Brahman realization is the glowing effulgence coming out of the body of the Lord, just like you can see a tube light, but you from tube light you get light. But there are many who believe that the Lord does not have a form, and many who might be demigod worshippers, and also they all tend to attain this Brahman, and there also, because there is no service, they tend to fall down from the Brahman platform. Yogis try to reach the Vaikuntha planets by the source of mystic powers, but generally they get attached to these mystic powers and stay back here in the material world. And also there is a quote that it takes 12 years to perfect one stage of yoga practice. That means the yoga practice which a yogi is supposed to perform is with the desire to see the Lord who is situated, 400 form of the Lord situated in everyone's heart. But that is not what today's world everyone understands. Another important point is that it is said that this yoga practice involves eightfold process, that is yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and so forth. So there are 8 stages. And each one, it is said that it takes 12 years for one to perfect one stage of yoga practice. That means yama 12 years, niyama 12 years, asana 12 years, pranayama 12 years. So like that, 8 stages into 12 equals to 96 years. So that means for one to perfect himself in yoga, one has to live for 96 years. He has to live more than 96 years because nobody will start the yoga practice from the time he is born. So this is the difficulty in practicing yoga, and particularly in Kali Yuga, it is not at all practically possible. So one of the examples that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam is Narad Muni. Narad Muni was perfect, but he travels all around, but traveling glorifying the Supreme Lord. But it is said that he can fly anywhere, anytime. But he uses all these skills only for Krishna's service. But yogis who attain this perfection, they are attached to these yogic powers and remain here. Next, number 20. Anye chamayinom mayam antardhanat bhutatmanam mayam prakalpya vatsam te duduhur dharana mayim. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Others also, the inhabitants of planets known as Kim Purushaloka, made the demon Maya into a calf, and they milked out mystic powers by which one can disappear immediately from another's vision and appear again in different form. So we see here in this loka at the residents of planets known as Kim Purushaloka. Maya is the deity there, and they transformed him into a calf. And their this thing is to achieve mystic powers by which they can disappear from one form and immediately appear in a different form. So this is their quality. So that is why they built these powers from the Mother Earth. So they turned Maya, the presiding deity, into a calf. These mystic powers are called Ishita. And it is said that they achieve these mystic powers by the practice of different type of yoga. There's mention of this in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam also, that how many demons appeared in front of Lord Krishna. For example, Bakasura appeared before Krishna and his cowherd boy is a giant crane. So these are the skills of the residents of this planet. So for them, what is required is this mystic power to transform from one form to the other without anyone realizing it. And one can attain these powers in this planet only by performing different yogic practices. That means even in other planetary systems, the practice of yoga is there, but then planet to planet, there is a variation, and depending upon what they require, they may perform these practices. Text number 21. Yasya yaksha rakshamsi bhutani pishacha pishita shanaha bhute shavatsa duduhu kapale Shadajasabam. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Then the yakshas, rakshasas, ghosts and witches who are inhibited to eating flesh transform Lord Shiva's incarnation Rudra, Bhutanatha, into a calf and milked out beverages made of blood and put them in a pot made of skulls. So here there are some important points that here mentioned. Now these residents in these planetary systems, they are generally yakshas, rakshasas, ghosts and witches, and they normally eat flesh. Uh, so what they did was they transformed Lord Shiva's incarnation Rudra, who is also known as Bhutanatha. Bhutanatha meaning is that master of ghosts. He's a master of ghosts. So they transform Rudra uh, into a calf and milked out, because what they need is these ghosts and pishachas, they survive on beverages that are made of blood, and they used pot made of skulls. So these living entities are mostly living in the mode of ignorance. So there is an explanation in Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, 8 to 10, which explains how living entities depend on various different types of foods. So in text number 8, the Lord says, foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. That means that we eat food. I mean, of course, we honor prasadam. What is in the mode of goodness, it increases the duration of one's life. That is the reason we have food. Purify one's existence. We all know that we are contaminated. So the food should help in purifying one's existence. That's why you honor prasadam. It should also give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. I'm not going into the classification of the foods. In this next sloka, that is sloka number 9. So first we have discussed food in the mode of goodness. In sloka 9, the Lord tells Arjuna, foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry and burning are those dear to those in the mode of passion. Such food cause distress, misery, and disease. We must understand the importance of this, because particularly when we take to devotional service, we should always eat food that is in the mode of goodness. In fact, when we offer bhoga to the Lord and honor it, it becomes prasadam, which is transcendental to the three modes of nature. So many times, but devotees tend to eat bitter food or sour food or something that is very pungent, very spicy, and then which is dry, it burns inside when we eat. That is in the mode of passion. And such foods actually cause distress, misery, and disease also. And then sloka number 10, the Lord explained that food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. That means those who are in the mode of darkness, they eat food that is cooked a long time back, more than 3 hours before, and it has no taste, it is decomposed, and so forth. And untouchable things, untouchable personalities who touch these food there. That's when somebody honors, these are all called food in the mode of ignorance. In the purpose, here, Prabhupada mentions some important points. He says the purpose of food is to increase duration of life, etc. In the past, great authorities selected those food that best aid health and increase one's duration. And these are like milk products, sugar, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetables. This is what is recommended to eat, not anything else. These foods are very dear to those in the mode of goodness. Some other foods, such as baked corn and molasses, which are not very palatable, can be very pleasant when mixed with full milk and other foods. They are then in the mode of goodness. All these are good by nature. Then he mentioned that there are quite these food in the mode of goodness, they are different from untouchable things like meat and liquor. Then there's mentioned that fatty foods have no connection with animal fat obtained by slaughter. Animal fat is available in the form of milk, which is the most wonderful of all foods. So one need not necessarily have to eat milk to have fat. Fat is available in milk. So you mentioned milk, butter, cheese, and similar products give animal fat in a form which rules out any need of killing innocent creatures. So there is no need to kill animal to have fat. If we take milk, that is enough. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk only. So slaughter is by the way of subhumans. That means those who resort to slaughter, killing of animals, is a subhuman form of activity. And protein is available through split peas, dal, whole wheat, etc. Food in the mode of passion, which are bitter, too salty, they cause misery by reducing the mucus in the stomach, leading to disease. And food in the mode of ignorance and darkness are essentially those that are not fresh. And any food cooked more than 3 hours, that is before it is eaten, except prasadam, that is food offered to the Lord, is considered to be in the mode of darkness. Before they are decomposing, such foods give a bad odor, which often attracts people in the mode of ignorance. Remnants of food may be eaten only when they are a part of a meal that was first offered to the Supreme Lord or first eaten by a saintly person, especially the spiritual master. Otherwise, the remnants of food are considered to be in the mode of darkness. That means many of them offer food to their forefathers and honor. That is the mode of darkness, and they increase infection or disease. The best food, of course, is recommended to eat what is offered to the Lord. And the Lord says that he accepts patram pushpam palam toyam, what these fruits, water, milk, etc. Above all these things, what is offered to the Lord should be offered with devotion and love. These are the important things, two important things when one offers bhoga to the Lord. And any food prepared by the injunction scripture and offered to the Lord can be taken even if it is prepared long, long ago, because such food is transcendental. So this is the importance of food. So the ghosts and these pisachas, they are used to drinking blood, and that's why they suck milk in the form of blood, and they use the skull as a drinking pot. So drinking wine and eating flesh is the symptom of the Rakshasa civilization. That means those who resort to drinking wine and eating flesh, they are none other than Rakshasas, even if they are in a human body. Text number 22. तथा हयो दण्डशूकाः सर्पानागाश्च तक्षकं विधाय वत्सं दुदुहुर्बिलपात्रे विषं पयः. Translation shall be पाठ कीजिए. Thereafter cobras and snakes without hoods, large snakes, scorpions and many other poisonous animals took poison out of the planet Earth as their milk and kept this poison in snake holes. They made a calf out of takshaka. So takshaka is one of the form of snakes. And here there is a mention that in the material world itself, there are many different types of living entities. Of them, the reptiles and scorpions are one class. So in this verse, this is what is mentioned here. The point is that everyone takes, generally human beings are supposed to take eatables from planet Earth. And according to the association with the material qualities, one develops a certain type of a character. So example is given here. For example, milk. Now, milk, when it is given to a saintly person, it helps in developing fine brain tissues by which one can understand spiritual aspects in a much better way. But the same milk, when it is given to a snake, it increases the venom in the snake. So snakes and the scorpions, these cobras, different types of snakes and cobras are given with have hoods and those without hood, and the scorpions. So they all took milk as their from food, and they stored it in the snake holes. So snakes normally live in the snake holes, and they made takshaka, is also a big snake. We see from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to be killed by bite of a snake, and that the snake was takshaka. It's also mentioned in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the point is that different living entities are there, and different types of food is there. But depending on who the what nature they have, but like I mentioned, the character of a snake. Snake is always after biting somebody with the poison that they have. So the same milk helps a sage in nourishing his brain tissues to understand spiritual life and practice spiritual life. And the same milk, it becomes a venom for a snake. So depend upon what nature they are situated, these ingredients also have a different effect. Text number 23 and text 24. Pashavo yavasam kshiram vatsam kritva cha govrisham aranyapatre cha dukshan mrigendrena cha dhamstrinaha Kravyada pranina karvyam duduhu sve kalevare suparnavatsa vegas charam cha charam evacha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The four-legged animals, like the cows, made a calf out of bull who carries Lord Shiva and made a milking pot out of the forest. Thus they got fresh green grasses to eat. Ferocious animals like tigers transformed a lion into a calf, and that they were able to get flesh for milk. The birds made a calf out of Garuda and took milk from the planet Earth in the form of moving insects and non-moving plants and grasses. So different classes of species are given. So animals like cow. Cow is a animal which is basically in the mode of goodness. And so they milked out by turning a bull into a calf. And they made a milk pot out of the forest. So they got, in return, they got fresh green grasses to eat. Then there are ferocious animals like tigers. They transformed a lion into a calf, and thus they were able to get flesh for milk. So the tigers got flesh, the cows got milk, they got grasses, green grasses to eat. And then there's a mention about how the birds normally survive on moving insects. So they made Garuda into a calf and took milk in the form of insects and non-moving plants and grasses. So many birds, they have leaves and these things from, there are many plants and grasses, so on and so forth. So they all got these moving insects. It is said that eagles are found, there is a class of eagles which is fond of eating only goats. Of course, many birds eat fruits and berries. Then there is a particular type of bird that is fond of eating monkeys. So these are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So each and every living entity got their type of food that they required. Now, how they built and how they use the pot, it's inconceivable to us. You must accept what is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. Text number 25. Vatavatsa vanaspatayah pritak rasamayam papayah giriyo himavatvatsa nana dhatun swasanasu. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The trees made a calf out of a banyan tree, and thus they derived milk in the form of many delicious juices. The mountains transformed Himalayas into a calf, and they milked a variety of minerals into a pot made of the peaks of hills. So here there is mention of how the trees made a calf out of banyan tree, and they got milk in the form of delicious juices. The mountains transformed Himalaya. Himalayas are supposed to be the king of the mountains. They transformed Himalayas into a calf, and they milked a variety of minerals. So, the Himalayas mountains are supposed to have a lot of minerals with them. So that is how they derived the minerals. And what they got as a pot was peak of the hills. All the hills have a peak, and they utilize this peak of hills as a pot. Text 26. Sarve swamukya patsena sve sve patre pritapayah sarvakama dugam prithvim duduhu pritu bhavitam. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The planet Earth supplied everyone his respective food. During the time of King Prithu, the earth was fully under the control of the king. Thus, all the inhabitants of the earth could get their food supply by creating various types of calves and putting their particular types of milk in various pots. So far we have seen so many different types of living entities drawing different types of ingredients from by converting someone as a cup and bringing something else in the form of a pot. So yeah. And then the Sri Prabhupada mentions the purport that there are different entities, types of living entities, and each one has got a different type of requirement of food also. And as mentioned also that in the moon planet, also there are living entities, varieties of living entities, and the type of food that is required is different for each one of them, even in the moon planet. So a lot of people say that there's no living being in moon and so forth. But Srila Prabhupada clearly has mentioned that even in moon, there are living entities which are who are suitable to live there. So there are living entities across the universe, everywhere in all the planetary systems. But then each one has got their individual characteristics, and that is how, based on their character, they are placed in those respective planetary systems. For example, even in sun, which is supposed to be very, very hot. So there are living entities who can take that type of a heat. So the point is that even every planet, there are different types of living entities, and different living entities have different types of requirement of food also. So here there is a mention that Eko Bahunam Yo Vedati Kaman. That means there is one Lord Krishna who supplies all the living entities different varieties of food in all the different planets in the various universes. So they all get all these from their planet, respective planets. So every planet produces different types of food according to the needs of its residents. So just as mankind needs grain for their sustenance, scorpions and snakes need poison for their sustenance. Moon also has got many living entities, and moon provides food for them also. It may not be possible for us to visualize who is living there and what food they get, but living entities are there. Even in Earth, we see there are different types of living entities. Those in live in the Africa and such regions. There is a mention that there's a sect of human beings who are known as cannibals. They kill their own forefathers, etc., when they become old and eat their meat. So these types of people are also there. European countries where the weather is very cold, they have a different type of food. So God is unlimited, and similarly we are also, but we are all limited. But the point is that all of them get their necessities from their respective planets. Another important point is that when demoniac kings rule, the planet, respective planet, they hide the grains and other whatever things are required for the living entities. For example, they mentioned that during Lord Rama's time, there was no scarcity of any food. And so for similarly in Yudhishthira Maharaj's times, everything was in abundance. The reason is that the devotees of the Lord or the Lord himself, when uh, they rule as per the guidance given the Shastras. But before Puthu Maharaj, there was King Vena. He was an atheistic person and he stopped all the sacrifices. So that is how when King Vena was present, there was nothing available at that time in the form of food grains for anybody. But then later on, he had to be killed. The Brahmanas were very powerful enough in those days to kill even a Brahmana, to kill a king. So they killed Vena and they brought in Puthu Maharaj. The Brahmanas were so powerful during Lord Rama's time that there is an example given that one time there was a Brahmana whose son died when father was there. So he went to Lord Rama and he complained to Lord Rama saying that there is something wrong in the way that you are ruling the kingdom. Otherwise, my son cannot die when I'm alive. This is how it was during Lord Rama's time, but we see how in Kali Yuga totally reversed. So when he went to Lord Rama and explained this, Lord Rama actually could understand that there was a Sudra who was performing austerities. The Sudras were not allowed to perform austerities. So he was performing austerities, because of which this Brahmana's son was killed. So performing sinful activities those days was very, very severe, and they were punished also. Finally, the Lord ordered that Shudra to be killed. Even today, if you look at some of the countries like Gulf countries and all, if somebody steals, his hand is cut off. So these are the, and in these places there is no crime because there is no democracy there. They are ruled by a king. So the rules are very strict, and if they catch somebody stealing, immediately their hand is cut off. So the punishments are very, very severe. In fact, sometime back there was an article saying that how in, I don't remember the name of the country, but Indonesia or Bangkok and some in southeastern countries, small country, but then there somebody was caught having extramarital affairs, so he was later on beaten to death. So this is how where the countries are very strict in following the regulations. There is a lot of discipline because there is a monarchy. So that's why committing anything abominable activity is very, very difficult there because you get punished if you're caught. So this way, all these minerals and everything was drawn from the Earth planet. So the Earth is glorified, and all the living entities also were provided with what they required. And Pithu Maharaj was asked to level the Earth, and he did this accordingly. When there is an ideal king, then everything is available in abundance. That means when the king is theistic, that means he is a religious person, then he establishes Varnashrama Dharma. Of course, there's mention about in the last verse also. And the citizens are asked to follow the Varnashrama Dharma. And Varnashrama Dharma, purpose of Varnashrama is to become devotees of the Lord and performing their duties accordingly. So there was abundance of everything during those reign, their reign. But when kings are atheistic, then automatically the earth hides them, everything underneath them. So all the living entities were inspired by Pithu Maharaj, and they were all happy, and Pithu Maharaj was also happy. Text number 27. Evam Mritpadayah Prithvim Annadaspannam Atmanah Doha Vatsadi Bedena Shirabedam Kurutpaha. My dear Vidura, chief of the Kurus, in this way, King Prithu and all others who subsist on food created different types of calves and milked out their respective eatables. Thus, they received their various foodstuff, which were symbolized as milk. So, there's a mention as to how all the living entities, when during Prithu Maharaj's reign, everyone got their food by how they got, but they turned different types of things into calves and milked out their respective eatables. And they received what they want as much as they wanted. Text number 28. Tato mahipati pritaha sarvakama dugam prituhu duhititve chakare mam premna duhitur vatsalaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, King Pithu was very satisfied with planet Earth, for she sufficiently supplied all food to various living entities. Thus, he developed an affection for the planet Earth, just as if she were his own daughter. So, here some important points. When sacrifices are performed, Earth provides everything. And when Earth provides the basic necessities of one's existence, then the king also becomes happy. The king is happy, and the Mother Earth also become happy. The living entities also are happy. When there is sufficient abundance, when there is an abundance in food grains and what other necessities that everyone has for their sustenance, then the living entities are all happy. And it's not only when we say living entities, only human beings, all the various classes of living entities are happy. The king, when the living entities are happy, the king is also happy. And at that time, the king develops an affection for planet Earth, just as if they were his own daughter. So in this point, it is mentioned that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura in his commentary says that Pithu Maharaj accepted Earth as his daughter. He did not accept Earth as his wife, because he milked her with his own hands, and it was not appropriate for him to accept mother as a mother. As his mother, at one point of time, Prithu Maharaj also threatened to punish Mother Earth. In the beginning, the first part of this chapter, there is a mention as to how Prithu Maharaj actually picked up his bow. When he saw, he was very angry when there was no grains, and he was literally aiming that bow at Mother Earth, and she was scared. So, because he did this, he did not accept Mother Earth as her mother, and he did not uh, take her as his wife because he milked her with his own hands. So finally, he accepted Mother Earth as his daughter, and he exhibited affection for his daughter as in the form of Mother Earth. Text number 29. Churnayan Swadanushkotya Girikutani Rajarat Bhumandalam Idam Vainyah Prayas Chakre Samam Vivuho. After this, the king of all kings, Maharaj Prithu, leveled all the rough places on the surface of the globe by breaking up the hills with the strength of his bow. By his grace, the surface of the globe became almost flat. Generally, for agricultural purposes, it is said that the ground should be flat and not round. So Prithu Maharaj had a bow by which, using the tip of that bow, he could actually level all the grounds, all the mountains, and he made it into a flat surface, by which he could create more agricultural land. And this could happen because he had a bow. With the tip of the bow itself, he could crush all big mountains. It means Prithu Maharaj was so powerful. And because he was an incarnation of the Lord himself. And otherwise, one would have had to wait for King Indra to break up the hills and mountains, but he did himself using his own strong bow. Otherwise, the practice was that whenever mountains have this thing, Indra gives thunderbolts by which they become flat. But this time, King Prithu did not wait for that because he himself was so powerful. With that, he would touch the tip of the bow onto the mountain, and they would automatically crush and would become flat. This way, Prithu Maharaj created more agricultural land. Text 30. Ata asmin Bhagavan Vainyah Prajanam Prittidah Pita Nivasan Kalpayam Chakre Tatra Tatra Yatar Hadaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. To all the citizens of the state, King Prithu was as good as a father. Thus, he was visibly engaged in giving them proper subsistence, and proper employment for subsistence. After leveling the surface of the globe, he earmarked different places for residential quarters in as much as they were desirable. Here, some important points are there. The citizens treated Prithu Maharaj as his father, and just Prithu Maharaj also, just as a father takes care of his children, he ensured that all the necessities of life for their sustenance are all provided. For that, he leveled the surface of the globe. Not only he leveled the surface of the globe, but also he earmarked different places for residential quarters also as they desired. Text number 31. Graman Pura Pattanani Durgani Vividhani Cha Goshan Vrajans Shibiran Akaran Kheta Karbathan. But translation in this way, the king founded many types of villages, settlements, and towns, and built forts, residences for cowherdsmen, stables for the animals, and places for the royal camps, mining places, agricultural towns, and mountain villages. So King Prithu not only provided for food, but also he provided accommodation to everyone based on their requirement. Different classes are given. He founded many types of villages. He established settlements and towns and built forts. So he built many forts and arranged towns also, development of towns. Then residences for cow herdsmen, because cows require a stable like animal, cows, horses, they all require stables. He provided that. So accordingly, those who have these cows and horses and all, they require a different type of shelter. So king provided for that. Then he provided royal camps for the royal family. Royal people were in the administration. He made provision for royal camps. He also made arrangement for mining places because minerals are required for sustenance. And he also developed agricultural towns and mountain villages. So these were all existing even uh, during before. I mean, we may see these things at the we may call town development and planning and so forth. But actually, it was Prithu Maharaj who developed all these things very systematically. And from then on, it has been existing as it is. Text number 32. Praकृtor ihanav naivaisha पुरग्रामादिकल्पना यथा सुखं वसन्ति स्म तत्र तत्र कृतोभयाः. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Before the reign of King Prithu, there was no planned arrangement for different cities, villages, pasturing grounds, etc. Everything was scattered and everyone constructed his residential quarters according to his own convenience. However, since King Prithu's plans were made, however, since King Prithu plans were made for towns and villages. So it is mentioned here that before Prithu Maharaj, there was no systematic planning and everything was helter-skelter. But from the time Prithu Maharaj took over, he developed everything in a very systematic way. Srila Prabhupada mentions that even in India, there are very old cities which are very systematically planned. And examples are given like towns 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna's capital, Dwaraka. It was very planned by the Lord himself. And similarly, other cities like Mathura, Hastinapur, which is now called as New Delhi, were all very well planned. So this planning and all is not something that is related to the modern current age, but they exist. They were started up by Prithu Maharaj himself. And he ensured, Prithu Maharaj not only provided food and shelter, but he ensured that the citizens follow the Varnashrama Dharma. That means it is not that just because they have been provided with shelter and food, they would sit at home and do nothing. But they were all asked to follow the Varnashrama system, that is for Varnas and for Ashramas. This he established. So that is how there was a cooperation between all the four Varnas and four Dharma Ashramas during Prithu Maharaj's rule, and everything was very smooth. The conclusion is that when there is an atheistic king, he stops all the sacrifices, and Mother Earth also withdraws the support that she has supposed to give the citizens, because in this also there is a narration she mentions as to how atheistic people make use of the grains that she was producing, and they were hoarding it, which we see in current situation. Many times we see people hoarding much more than what they require, even though there may be surplus availability, and then they sell it in black market to earn higher money. So when people, such atheistic people are there, then automatically earth planets understand these, and accordingly she does either produce or she doesn't produce. The point is that if there is a king who is a devotee of the Lord, if he follows religion, he establishes religion to his praja also. In fact, there is a quote in Srimad Bhagavatam, if one cannot deliver his dependents from the cycle of birth and death, one should not become a king, one should not become a teacher, one should not become a spiritual master, one should not become a father or mother. This can happen only if one can deliver his dependents only if they practice spiritual life. Otherwise, if they don't practice, they can't give it to their dependents. So that is why it is said that it's a very responsible role for a king or a father or a spiritual master or a teacher. So the conclusion is that Prithu Maharaj was an exemplary personality. He not only provided food and accommodation, but he also established the Varnashrama Dharma. One more important point is that even if there is adharma, bhakti is something that can be practiced, and because bhakti is different from karma, jnana, and etc. Bhakti is independent. That is why it is said that There are many countries where there may not be an ideal king, but still there are different types of faith. They have their own types of believing in God, but they practice. So religion is something that is a practice. Politics and religion, they don't go together, but it is not necessary that one should, even if a king is not believing in religion, there are citizens who practice and follow very sincerely. Christians go to church on every Sunday, which is a holiday for them. Of course, the Muslims, they for namaz even on weekdays. In the Gulf countries, I've seen them even offering during their work hours, and they offer many times the prayers to the Lord. So bhakti is independent of karma, jnana, and etc. And of course, a king like Prithu Maharaj would be the ideal situation for any country. So with this, I conclude the class for the day. The reason is that there were only 16 slokas and many of them didn't have Prabhupada also. I tried to get as much a point uh, as possible. So if you have any questions or any comments, you can ask me for the next couple of minutes.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. This
Mataji.
is not related to Prithu Maharaja's ruling, but I got a doubt about Ramarajya, Prabhuji.
Yes.
When the Brahmana's son died, they found out that there was a Sudra who was performing austerities.
Yes.
But in Bhagavad Gita, in this 9.32 verse, it is said that, Krishna says, O son of Pritha, Mami Partha Vyapashritya Yepi Syuf Papa Yonaya. Even the Papa Yonaya, they also can perform, take shelter in me, though they are of lower birth, so that they can attain supreme destination. And also
Yes.
there is one more verse, Prabhuji, 6.5, Udared Atmanatmanam Anatmanam Avashadayet. So
Yes.
this is irrespective of your guna and karma, and even a Shudra is allowed to perform austerities and devotional service. So
Okay.
why did Rama? Okay, at the most he could have just reprimanded him and told him, "Don't do it." Why should he be killed?
Okay. In different yugas, different practices are there. Now, in Kali Yuga, even a Shudra can take up chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Now, in other yugas, for example, Ramarajya and like Satya Yuga and other times, a Shudra is not supposed to perform austerities. So, if somebody violates dharmic principles, then it affects somebody else, and then the process, the only solution is the person is killed. And of course, these instances are not very often like we might find today. These are rare instances. But the conclusion is that in every yuga, the different classes are given different types of religious practices. Brahmanas were given the power to understand spiritual knowledge. So the Kshatriyas used to take knowledge from the Brahmanas, and then in turn, they used to protect the Vaishyas, by which Vaishyas could produce grains. And the Shudras are meant to serve the higher classes of men, like the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. They are not supposed to perform something which other classes are supposed to perform. So this is how the classification worked in other yugas. In Kali Yuga, there is no such classification existing. So that is why we might find that even those who are sinful, they can take to devotional service. In Kali Yuga, anyone can chant the holy name of God, that permission is given. But in other yugas, the practices were different. Like I mentioned, even in, if you go see the Gulf countries today, they don't have a democracy, they have aristocracy. So it is ruled by a king. If you kill somebody even by mistake, you have to be punished. And that is one of the reasons there is no sinful activities. Uh, you won't find any strikes. You won't find any form of disobedience in any of these countries. It may be looking for us, but that's one of the reasons Srila Prabhupada many times mentions that democracy is not the right thing for this Kali Yuga.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mother.
Thank
Any
you,
other,
Prabhu.
any other comments from anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, wasn't Valmiki from a low caste family?
Pardon me?
Valmiki, who wrote Ramayana, wasn't he from a low caste?
Yes, Ratnakar.
So how could he write Ramayana, Prabhuji, when it was not allowed in thing?
The Lord empowered him. Lord can empower anybody. He can withdraw power from anybody.
Okay, so
It's difficult to
it's little
understand,
yes,
Prabhuji.
understand all this, Prabhuji, because one way a Sudra is being killed because he was performing austerities. Another way, other is saying the Lord is giving him the authority to write the Ramayana. So, how to understand this to Prabhuji?
Now, what is the Lord's plan for what we cannot visualize? But what we must do is we must take the essence of all these things. For example, when we mention about the Brahmana being, a Shudra performing austerity, we must understand that he is not allowed to perform that austerity. And finally, he had to be killed because somebody else is getting affected. If you see during Lord Rama's reign, also, he was very merciful and very compassionate in his way of dealing, where every citizen were happy. But this, in one instance of a Shudra, resulted in a Brahmana's son being died. Whereas Lord Rama was not at all a selfish person, his ruling was totally selfless. If you look at Ratnakar compiling Ramayana, it was a mercy given to him. Though he was a hunter, uh, the Lord wanted him to realize or repent for his killing of the animals, but in the process empowered him to write Ramayana also. So the Lord can empower, Lord is independent. We are dependent on the Lord, but the Lord is independent. So he can deliver a Shudra also if he wants at any point of time. He can deliver a Brahmana. He need not deliver a Brahmana also. So in this respect, we see many times we quote an example of a Brahmana and a cobbler, where a Brahmana is supposed to have knowledge. But when Narada Muni went there, he asked Narada Muni, what did you see? And when Narada Muni said that he saw the Lord uh, piercing an elephant through the eye of a needle, the Brahmana said, how is it possible? We have not seen it or we have not gone to the right place. But on the other hand, when a cobbler heard about this, Naradi asked, how is it? The cobbler said, what is it the Lord cannot do? The Lord can produce hundreds and thousands of plants which set one seed. There is a tree here, and from the tree, so many seeds fall. And from all these seeds, so many plants come out. So the point is that we cannot use our logic to understand why somebody is punished and why somebody is not punished. So the Lord is independent to do all this.
But Prabhuji, boys' activities don't harm anybody, na?
Which one? Boys.
Boys' activities that the Sudra was performing, it cannot harm anybody, na Prabhuji. How could it harm the Brahmana's son?
Well, this is how the religion works. If you see, religious principles vary from yuga to yuga. If you relate what is happening to Kali Yuga and what happened to Treta Yuga, it may be totally different. Now, we cannot imagine how the Sudra was performing austerity, so a Brahmana son had to die. Now, our logic won't work in that, but this is clearly given in Ramayana.
Maybe was he performing the tantric things, to have negative influences? Maybe.
Could be that those tantric things are there today also. Many people believe in that and many have effects on that also. It
So
could be.
probably that was the reason. Otherwise, why should Rama will not kill, no, Prabhuji?
Yeah, yeah.
Those who take of the Lord cannot harm anybody. So I think that is right, Prabhuji. It must be something like tantric or something. And so
Could
he
be,
was
could
doing,
be.
could be, Prabhuji.
Because otherwise, I'll stay the whole my entire life. I'll be feeling sad that Rama killed a Sudra.
Uh,
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
very much.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? Thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna to all devotees assembled here. Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranams. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.